we will talk about that in a moment, about
Okay.
how countries like Kuwait or United Emirates can solve their issues, right? Because they have, otherwise they wouldn't be on the map right now.
Yeah, of course.
But just to give you a perception of how depleted the underground water is, there are 37. We know there are, at least as far as we know, right? Maybe there are, but from the 37 major underground reserves,
Okay.
21 are exploited to a point of not return.
Yeah.
So irreversibly emptied because we are just pumping them so constantly at big scale, and they cannot replenish themselves with rainwater. So 37, you are already out of 21. Doesn't look good.
That does not look good, my friend. Yeah. Is it because of the population that's the problem, or is it how we use it?
The population keeps expanding, so there's so more people for the same resources that is not expanding. All right.
Yeah.
So you come to a collapse. There's so much that you can sustain in that way. And the other one is exactly how we use water.
Yeah.
For example, the human body, it requires 2 liters of drinking water per day to be functioning properly, right?
Right.
But in average, a person in the world consumes 2,000 liters per day.
3,000 liters
per day, in average.
The whole world together.
Yes. No, like per capita, per person.
So 3,000 per day, 3,000 ml, you mean? So 3 liters.
So every new person in this planet, like roughly is 250,000 new people sitting today at the table that were not there the night before.
Yeah.
This is the pace of how humanity keeps increasing population, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then, in average, will consume about 3,000 liters per day.
Per day, but this is like including your shower, your daily grind.
Everything.
3,000 liters, you said? Per day? How?
Per day.
Doing what? Other than drinking water, you're showering. What else are you doing?
Exactly. And this is where we can introduce a concept of water footprint.
Yeah, that's it. Water footprint. Yeah.
So everything we consume had to include water at some point.
Okay.
Right? So the food you eat, it is mainly made of water. And to produce it, you had to, irrigate the fields. And then when you transport things, water is involved. And then, when you do refrigeration, gases and water is involved. And when you, want to create materials, water is involved. Your house has a big water footprint. We talked last time about a carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Well, water is another type of footprint. It's a resource that we keep using to maintain our lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So this is why, in the overall, if you want to talk about it, if you want to let's talk about water consumption. So what exactly takes most of the water available for humans? Well, you can stop, brushing your teeth or, not letting the tap running when you wash your hands and all this because it's something that is under your control. But all that only accounts for 8% of the water consumption.
Okay.
Right? From that 1% we're talking, right? So from that 1% available for humans, if that's 100%, 8% will be the proportion for householding, activities. Then factories use 22% to create your clothes, your furniture, your houses, your computers, mobile phones, all these kind of things. And then agriculture takes the 70%.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Ourselves, it's a race to usage of water available to us.
Wow. Now, when you
So
say race, I want to know about, I've been reading about a few things. So I don't know where, don't quote me on this, but I've been told by 2030, India is going to be a water dependent nation. That sounds very, very terrifying to me. Then I've been told that I know for a fact last year or 2 years ago, South Africa was in a water crisis. That so much so that I think Cape Town, I have a friend there, she was telling me Cape Town is down to 5 liters of water per day per person. 5 liters? That's ridiculous. I don't know how much you use for a shower, but I think people use more than 5 liters for one shower. So I've heard this word before, day zero. That's where I read about it. Can you explain to me what day zero is? Can you tell us what are the crisis regions in the world? What are the places which are most susceptible right now?
yeah, absolutely. The day zero is a concept trying to determine the day when we actually run out of water in a location.
Okay.
So for South Africa, the day zero was mainly in the main city that uses most of the water, that is Cape York, and basically they were counting down the days. So there's just limited resources of water. We are all using this amount of water per capita, or in the industry or agriculture. So we know how many days we have left after there's nothing left.
Shit. You mean nothing, like zero? Absolutely nothing
Like
left?
zero.
Like you gotta
Yeah,
import water?
exactly. Like we have no more. So you can imagine how stressful that is. And it was not until then, until they were actually counting to day zero, that they got this, voluntarily consciousness of the importance of water. And because they took action on efficiency measures, they were able to delay that day to day zero. Everyone was counting the world like, oh my God, those guys are going down. They only have
Yeah,
1 month. By this day, on this month, that's it. No more water available.
that's scary.
And everyone trying to, put policies in place and make it more efficient, and people got conscious. And because those actions, they actually were saying, well, now the day zero is not in the middle of the month, it's actually at the end of the month. And then as they keep going, they change the date farther back in time because they were actually looking after it. They were caring about it. And I don't know what is with humans that we need to wait until, moments of life or death to
Yeah.
actually think about it.
That's what we spoke about last time, we said, right? Crisis brings humanity together. Exactly what it is.
So
Speaking of crisis bringing humanity together, and how you said we might have to import water. Every now and then you read a little article in the newspaper about somebody who comes back from time travel guy or whatever. So there was this article, I don't know where I read it, and I don't know if it's true or credible, but nonetheless, it's a fun story. Somebody came back from time into a bar. Let's say, I think it was Australia, but I'm going to say United States, okay? Like a bar in the middle of nowhere, like a dive bar, a country town bar. And he gets into the bar and, goes and gets a beer or whatever. And he looks at the person behind the bar and tells the bartender, hey, what year are we in, right? So he says, we're in 2018. So that makes zero sense. If I told you we were in year 1652, you wouldn't know the difference between 52 and 53 or 54. You need something to define that era. So he's like, oh, are we still fighting over oil, or have we started fighting over water? So water is the new oil. If most of the big investors in the United States and the world, those guys who were investing in oil once upon a time, they're all investing the stock in water stocks now. It's so scary.
Absolutely. Actually, this is why if we're looking at a graph and we see how we consume water from 1990 to 2010, we will see that in that century,
yeah,
well, it was over a century, but like in pretty much the last 100 years,
yeah,
our water consumption went up 7x.
wow.
So from the beginning of the century, of last century, to the year 2000, like that exponential curve started actually in 1950, but when we call, you see, carbon emissions is the same thing, and it was all the Industrial Revolution.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, is it because of the Industrial Revolution? Yeah, that's the reason, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So we won many battles with, sanitation, having access to, potable water. The mortality rate, decreased because water is heavily related to death. Not only because drinking water, but also sanitation.
Yeah.
Just to avoid the area, and we were living longer. We were not dying so early. And all of this obviously keeps creating pressures in consumption in general. Food, water directly, carbon emissions, woods, homes, So the fact that we have done better and better in living longer and not dying so quickly is just big pressure to the system that is not multiplying at the pace that humans keep multiplying. And we want to ensure that every single human being has everything required in life, even if they do not appreciate it, we have you have your own room, you have your bed, you have food on the table, you have a shower. And you're satisfied. Oh, I'm such a failure in life.
Don't get me started on that, buddy. Don't get me started on that right now.